Hi, this is Madeline from the Philadelphia Education Fund. I'm here today recording a presentation called Study Smart, 3 Easy Habits That Make a Difference. This is a really short presentation that my coworker Claire and I developed to help students who are in college kind of develop some skills that will help you be successful this semester. It was part of a series of free workshops that already ended. We're going to continue to offer these mini workshops in the springtime, so please keep your eyes and ears out for an invitation to attend these. It's really important that you come to them. You'll get to meet other scholars who are receiving our scholarship, and hopefully you'll learn something that, again, will help you feel more confident so that you can tackle all the work that you're expected to do in college and put your best foot forward. So today, again, we're working on just 3 very basic study and time blocking techniques. These are things that I kind of wish someone had helped me with when I first started in college. I really didn't know what I was doing. It took a long time to find my rhythm and to figure out how best to use my time, how to actually study, because at my high school, I didn't really have to study. So again, not all of these will work for everybody. These are just some suggestions that you might be able to incorporate into your routine. So to start us off, we're looking at some study techniques. The first thing is everybody is different how they study. I know for a fact that I am not a person who would be very successful right here in this picture I took from Temple's website. This group study lounge that's right, like off a major staircase, people coming and going, lots and lots of noise and commotion. That wouldn't have worked for me. But for some people, they really like that hustle and bustle or the white noise of all those people moving around. I'm more of a solitary studier, which I learned over time. I kind of needed to be by myself to avoid distractions. Some people really like to study in their rooms. The temptation there is that there might be a nice cozy bed right nearby. So for some students, they can be very effective studying in their own rooms, whether that's at home in your house or whether it's a dorm room. But for others, it's kind of a disaster because the bed is very tempting. Some students really do learn best on their computers. For others, it's probably better to kind of set all the screens aside and go back to your notes the old-fashioned way. Some students really like music. Some people, that's just another distraction. So all of my advice is really, take it or leave it. It depends on you, but I encourage you to be realistic. There's some students who show up to the library and they plug in and then, you see a friend and it ends up being just like more of a hangout session than actually productive. So be realistic with yourself. I also do want to point out, if you didn't know, probably your college's library has a study space that you can rent. And it could be a private study space or it could be a group private study space. So if you do have a group project and you don't want to be in a more public place, or you don't want to invite everyone over to your room, or you don't want to be at the campus cafe, there are probably quiet study spaces that you can reserve on campus just by entering your library card information. So take a look on your college's library website just to see if that's an option. All right, moving on. Here's an actual study technique that really helps me when I need to get in the zone, when I need to complete something, maybe when I'm working under a deadline. This is not rocket science. It's not that complicated. It has a name called the Pomodoro technique. And the reason is it was developed by an Italian student probably in the 80s. And the kitchen timers in Italy are, commonly shaped like a tomato. So he used a tomato kitchen timer and he would crank it to about 25 minutes, decide on one thing to do, work on it until the timer rings, and then take a little break. And then you would continue to do that little by little, and then take a longer break after 2 or 3 repetitions of this. How can you do it? Well, you don't need a tomato. Although if you do have a physical timer, sometimes that can be really helpful. You can just always use your phone. Set a 25-minute timer. And this is the really important part. Determine what you want to complete in that 25 minutes. Pick one thing. Don't try to do all of your homework, write an entire paper. Focus on one thing, like researching sources for a paper, right? Or completing all the problems in one problem set. Don't try to do things from multiple classes. Just focus on one task at hand and get lost in it for 25 minutes. No breaks, no little sneak peeks at your phone, just really trying to get in the zone, knowing that you have 25 minutes. Then after 5 minutes, take a breather, take a stretch, use the restroom, check your phone. If you heard your texts going off, don't look at them until your 5-minute break. And then keep doing that a few times until you feel like you've actually made some progress. So if you haven't tried something like that, see if this helps you. It helps me to break big work into smaller pieces. The next tip is just about note taking. Again, in high school, you might not have needed to take notes. You might have been getting summaries or worksheets from your teacher. It's possible none of your teachers really taught you to take notes, or they had a very complicated system that then you basically didn't use. Either way, you need to come up with your own note-taking system. So for me, I think the most important thing to emphasize is it's important to put what you're hearing in class into your own words. If you're just trying to copy everything that's off the board, you're not really going to be remembering it in the same way. You should be trying to listen and then summarize it in your own language. And that means you're not writing the full sentences. You're just going to try to capture important phrases, putting them in your own words, putting them through the filter of your own brain, because most research shows that that's how you actually remember things versus, say, a word for word recording. So you want to find a structure for when you're actually taking notes in a notebook. You always want to label the top of your page with the today's date. If there is a particular topic of your lecture, referring back to the syllabus to see if there was a theme for the week, so title each page in your notebook, and then you should have sort of headings, and then using indents, so spaces away, to kind of organize each thought that your professor is either leading you through or that you're noticing. Definitely don't want to write full sentences or paragraphs or anything. Bullet points are really important because you're more likely to review them that way. When you're reading, it's also important to take notes. Those notes can go in a separate notebook, or you can be writing your notes in the margins or on the side of your textbooks, of your, any kind of text or printed out journal articles. So definitely get in the habit of reading with a pen or pencil or highlighter. And then you want to come up with your own shorthand. So your own sort of set of codes so that when you go back to those materials, maybe if you're writing a long-term paper or studying for a test, you know what a star means. You know what a check mark means. You know what it means when you're underlining, if you're putting a box around something. So it could be that a box around something means this is the main idea, and maybe a check mark just means this is a useful idea, right? So you're able to quickly scan a page and see, ooh, this is useful, but here's the main idea. Some people like to color code their notes. Whatever works for you, just try to be consistent. That way, again, you can easily scan a page and it will help you in the long run. So here's some examples of real work that I did in college. So over here on this side, you can see I have my notebook with the date, and I went to college a long time ago. I have the day of the week it was. This was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, just helps me kind of visualize the week. And this was a history of art class. So a little bit different than maybe some of the classes that you might be taking. And I'm writing maybe some important dates towards the top. I have drawn a line to divide between the lecture component of it. I'm using bullet points. So this is describing a piece of art. I have a shorthand here, C meaning circa, meaning that's when this piece of art was probably created around the location. And then I have an indent or a space, and then I'm writing a few bullet points about that piece of art underneath. So these would have been slides my professor was going through quickly, and I was having to jot down the things that she's saying to help me understand why that piece of art was important. Over on this side is an example of me annotating or writing notes in a piece of a text for one of my classes. So you can see I'm underlining certain things. I'm underlining a lot, but I'm also circling things. So I'm circling some phrases that I think will be helpful. I'm, putting on the side, oh, I think this is a cool theory. This is information about HBCUs. So I'm pulling out a keyword so that I can find it again. So again, date at the top of the page, bullet points with spaces for a new idea. Over as you're annotating, indicate the important passages, take notes using your own words, circle the important phrases, things that you might want to utilize later if you're having to write a reflection or a memo or, a paper, term paper on it. So this is an exercise that we would have done together, but since I'm recording this by myself, I'll just, again, point out some things that I did. And this is just a a book that I had to buy for a sociology class. So again, notice I'm writing in the lines. I'm underlining important sections. I have some stars. I'm writing some notes at the bottom that's summarizing what I'm reading. Technology was making workers obsolete, right? Here, 2 stars, okay? 2 stars must mean really important. You guys get this, right? And again, I'm highlighting like a statistic. Maybe I want to quote that statistic later. And so I'm kind of doing the research for myself for future me as I'm reading, and it'll make it a lot easier for me to go through this work again if I have to do a long-term paper or some sort of reflection on what I'm reading for class. One note that I do want to mention, more and more, I've been hearing students say that they record their lectures. Sometimes that's actually done for you, in which case that's fine. But if you're trying to record your lectures on your phone, I encourage everyone to ask your professor for permission or check the syllabus. Some professors do not want their lectures recorded. It's their intellectual property. They don't want you posting it. Maybe they'll say, oh, thanks for asking. That's fine, as long as it's only for you. Just ask, because actually there's some laws in Pennsylvania that you can't usually record someone without their consent. I'm not 100% certain if that counts in a classroom setting, but you don't want to run into any hot water. The second thing is, ask yourself, will I actually use this, or are you kind of recording as a cop-out? Look, I get it. Sometimes it's very tempting to say, well, I'll just record the whole thing. But ask yourself, are you actually going to listen to it again? By recording it, are you putting yourself off the hook for actually paying attention in class? For a lot of students, especially if you're learning English, having a recording can be a really powerful tool, going back to see if you missed something. But ask yourself, are you actually going to use this? Because if you're not building in time to listen to it again, which is essentially like going to class, a second time, then it might be more useful for you to spend your time trying to take notes in class. Just my 2 cents. Everybody's different, obviously. All right, our last tool, super quick, is schedule management. Now, I've been working with college students and high school students for the better part of a decade, and the thing that I always hear about the difference between high school and college, they say time management, time management, time management. But I always push students and ask, what do you really mean by that? And I actually think a better term is schedule management. Yes, it's time, but time is this kind of murky, ill-defined thing. A schedule is something that we can understand. A schedule is something you can see and touch and feel and organize and have control over. Everyone should have a schedule. You should have scheduled out hours. That could be a paper schedule. It could be a whiteboard that you put up, in your room. It could be a GCal or a calendar on your phone. Whatever you have that has the days of the week and the dates of the month and what is going on those days, that's a schedule. And you should have an accurate schedule. So let's talk about that. You can't plan ahead if you don't know what's on your schedule. You might say yes to something, and if you're not building up to it, you might miss out on it. You might overcommit yourself and have scheduling conflicts. So it's really important to plan ahead. I know you all are super busy. You have busy personal lives. Many of you still have family responsibilities while you're still trying to be a full-time student. It's super hard. Add in, a job or paid work to that. It can be really, really overwhelming. And I think you'll feel more in control if you actually have everything mapped out. And just as important as it is to see your classes, your job, any kind of family responsibilities on a calendar, it's also really important to set aside time dedicated to just focusing on studying, focusing on getting your homework done. Because unlike in high school, you kind of can't wait to the last minute and still get the same grades that maybe you got in high school. As you're managing your time and you're blocking it out, I think that will help you avoid multitasking. It'll help you, from just sitting down in the library and having 15 things that you want to do at once. If you're breaking down what it takes to complete one assignment and devoting time to it, you're less likely to multitask. When you are studying, it's important that you try to block out those distractions. I'm so guilty of it. Sometimes when I'm just like, I have 20 seconds where I'm waiting for something to load or I'm waiting for someone to get back to me, I go on my phone, right? There's just our phones are designed to kind of addict us, to keep us always checking them. There's always something new. So if you can, put your phone on do not disturb, stick it at the bottom of your backpack, use something else as a clock, use something else as a timer if it's really that much of a distraction, and really try to limit social media, limit texting, and make use of your scheduled study time by being really devoted to the task at hand. When you do that, reward yourself, right? Go up, get a treat, get yourself a coffee. Sometimes rewarding yourself is also just having a good social interaction. So make sure that you're building in time to hang out with people who you love and who make you feel good about yourself. And create a balance. You want to be healthy body, healthy mind. Most of you go to colleges that have some sort of gym or fitness center. Try something new, move your body so that you're not just kind of cooped up in that class, study, work. Create a balance for yourself and build it into your calendar. So I'm going to demonstrate one way to do that. I'm going to use a Google Calendar. Most of us have some sort of Gmail account, but you can also use whatever email client your college has provided for you. It might be something like Outlook or Zimbra. So the first thing I would do is add in all of your classes for a particular semester. So here I have bio, psych, English, and calculus as 4 classes. So I'm building in weekly, and you can make it recurring so you don't have to add this to your calendar every single week. It'll come up every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at the appointed time. And so you can kind of start to see where the breaks are in between your classes, right? Next, what I would do is add a study block. So I'll show you how to do that, and treat it like a class or a job. Right? Treat it just like you would. So if I were this person here and I have biology from 10 to 11:30, and then I have a break until 2, I know I need to eat some lunch in there so that I'm not hungry. But there's a lot of time here. And I think that that time would be lost if I went back to my room. I'd want to take a nap. I might get, into clicking and go down a Wikipedia wormhole or start watching a show. So instead, what I would probably do is say, maybe grab a quick lunch right after bio is over, and then spend the next hour and a half, something like that, before psychology, completing some sort of assignment for biology. Put that in your calendar, right? So treat it just like you would a job or a class. I also would add a day-long event. So on Tuesday, November 7th, it was election day. I don't want to forget to vote. So you can make that an all-day event, just to sort of like being a reminder, hey, don't forget to vote today. I would also put in, my family's birthdays to make sure that I'm calling my friends if they're having a birthday. Maybe I put a calendar reminder a week in advance if I want to send someone a gift. So build in these day-long reminders for a special event or something that's a due date. Okay. And like I said, you want to look for time blocks that would otherwise be wasted. So, when you're organizing your events, use the color code feature. So in GCal, you can make them different colors. That way, at a glance, you can kind of see what's what. You can set those recurring meetings. You can make sure that there's a little notification that comes up 15 minutes or a day or 30 minutes before the event is occurring. You can add attachments. I often like to copy and paste a description. So if I know that there's a club meeting coming up or something like that, and I want to remember where it's taking place, I'll copy and paste the whole description into this area, and then I'll add a location, like it's at the Student Union building or something like that. So utilize all these features so that you can stay on top of things. So I'm going to just show you in real time an example of how you can do this in your own calendar schedule. So here's my GCal. Hopefully this screen sharing is still working. Yeah, that looks good. So let's say, for example, that I have a major assignment due December 1st. So I'm going to go all the way to December 1st, and I'm going to add it as a full day calendar hold. So I'm going to say English term paper draft due. Okay. And I don't need it from 6:30 to 7:30 a.m. Instead, I'm going to call it all day. So it goes to the very tippy top. And I don't really need a location. This is more a reminder for me, but I can add a description and say, due in due via online submission. So I'm going to have to email this to my professor, and if he had any instructions, it has to be a PDF or it has to be 12-point font or something like that. Or if it has to be by 6 p.m. Okay, I can add an attachment if I want. But mostly I just want to remind myself that I have this big assignment due. So I'll click save. Now, here's the next level way to manage your schedule. Go back a week. All right, now I'm going to add another full day event, and I'm going to call it 1 week until English paper due date. Right? So I'm going to have a reminder built in that if I haven't been working on this, I don't want it to come up, remind me the day before it's due. So what might be some of my goals if I have an English paper due in a week? I might say something like complete outline. I might say draft 3 to 5 body paragraphs, or visit writing center. All right, so those might be my goals that are going to pop up a week before this paper is due. And then if I said to myself, I want to visit the writing center, then maybe the week that this is due, I should look at my schedule and say, when am I going to have time to visit the writing center? Well, this is looking kind of busy, but here, Tuesday the 28th, I have some good time in the afternoon. So I'm going to actually block it off on my schedule, visit writing center. And then in the description, I can write, bring draft of English paper for tutor to review. Right? So this is pretty basic stuff, but the idea is I'm actually thinking about all the steps it takes for me to get to this due date so that it's not coming up all of a sudden. I'm not missing any deadlines. I'm not doing sloppy work. I'm utilizing some resources in advance and I'm building it into my schedule. And you'll see here, I also have recreational soccer. Maybe there's a really interesting like film screening, add that in. So, film screening, and you can add where it is, student union building. Okay, so this is just examples about how you can build out your schedule. And again, I really encourage you to look at these little breaks between things. Okay, so you have about 20 minutes, if you count walking between the biology building and your English building, you have about 20 minutes to do something. So that might be a good time to say hi to a friend, or you could spend 20 minutes reading, reviewing your biology notes. You can find a lot of time if you are kind of looking for these blocks in between your classes. Otherwise, it becomes wasted time, I think. And I always used to tell myself, look, 20 minutes is 20 minutes. If I do 20 minutes of reading, that's 20 minutes that I did, and you can actually make progress little by little that way. So I hope that this was helpful for all of you, just to get a sense of some examples of how you can integrate easy study techniques into your flow, how you can better utilize the free tools that you already have around you so that you're not scrambling. We don't want to be in the scrambling mode. And it can be a lot if all of a sudden you have 5 classes and 5 different professors with 5 different sets of expectations. So do yourself a favor and try to map it all out in a visual way that holds you accountable and gives you reminders. I live and die by my calendar. If it's not on there, I will forget it. So definitely find something that works for you. Now, if you have any questions at all, I encourage you to reach out to me and Claire. We're success@philaedfund.org. Our whole job is to help you be successful. Even if you think it's a silly question, ask it. And we'll try to, if we don't know the answer, we'll try to connect you to the person on your campus who does. We want to see you coming back and getting this money year after year after year. And to do that, you need a 2.0 GPA, which in high school, easy to do. In college, harder to do. But we want to help you as much as we can. So I hope you feel like we're on your team. We are rooting for you. And please, please, please don't be a stranger. Okay. That's all for me for now. Thanks so much. Take care.